Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. Max climbed onto my chair and reached for the stove dial. I lunged, my hand slapped the knob back to off. The metal spoon in his fist smacked the backsplash hard. My pulse went straight to my throat because he did not flinch. I'm Alex, 34, and I froze for half a second. You know that split second where you pick a mistake? I picked speed over politeness because a flame wins every time. I lifted him down firm and fast, and he kicked my shin. Jenna stormed in and scooped him up like I was the threat. Her eyes went to my grip, then to his face. She pressed her forehead to his and breathed slow on purpose. Max stared over her shoulder at me, calm as a tiny judge. "Unhand him." Jenna's voice stayed sweet, which made it worse. I opened my palms and took one step back. He leaned into her and started to whine like a performance. Jenna nodded at him like he was giving a speech. He almost turned the burner on. I pointed at the dial. Jenna didn't look at it, she watched my mouth. "Your tone is scary." She rubbed his back in little circles. Max peeked at me and smiled like he just learned a trick. I tried to keep it simple because I was shaking. "Safety rule: no climbing, no stove." My words came out clipped. Jenna lifted one finger like I interrupted class. "We don't do commands." Her gaze held mine, daring me to argue. Max slid down and sprinted toward the hallway. I stepped to block him because that was pure reflex. Jenna moved with him and blocked me back, shoulder to shoulder. It felt like a weird standoff, and I hated the way I hesitated. "Max, come here." I kept my voice low and steady. He slowed down, then kept going anyway, testing the boundary. Jenna clapped softly like he did something brave. "Good listening." She smiled at him and my jaw tightened. "I won't lie," I laughed once out of shock. It came out sharp and Jenna's head snapped toward me. "Do not laugh at him." She said it like a rule. Max heard that and puffed up like he got promoted. I walked to the stove and turned the child lock on. I did it quietly because I didn't want another fight. Jenna saw the motion and her lips pressed thin. "Control creates power struggles." She said it like a warning. "Power struggle." I repeated it because I couldn't help myself. Jenna crouched to Max's level and opened her hands. "You felt out of control when Uncle Alex grabbed you." Max nodded too fast like he was chasing praise. I tried a softer approach because fine, I can flex. "Buddy, that could hurt you." I tapped my own wrist, not him. Max stared at my face and waited, like he wanted the next move. Jenna cut in before he answered, and she did not blink. "It's not your place to discipline my child." She said it with a flat smile, then checked Max's reaction. He stared at me like I was suddenly optional. I felt my house tilt under my feet, and I stayed quiet. I should have pushed back right then, and I didn't. I told myself it was one bad minute, not a new reality. Jenna stood up and smoothed his hair, all gentle and certain. Then she added the part that made my stomach drop. "This is our safe space now." Her tone turned final. I glanced at the bags by the door because yeah, they were staying. Max darted back to the chair and put one foot on the rung. He looked at me first before he climbed, like he was asking permission. I moved fast again because I'm not an idiot. Jenna stepped between us again, almost daring contact. "Ask him what he needs." Her voice stayed calm, my nerves did not. Max grinned wide, and that grin was the first real threat. Max yanked the pantry door open and toppled a cereal box. The flakes hit the floor like a dare. I stepped in and slid the box back from the edge. He kicked the spill wider with his heel, watching my face. I grabbed the dustpan and held it out. "Help me fix this." My voice stayed even, barely. Max stared at the handle like it was a trap. Then he shouted no, and waited for the world to move. Jenna swooped in and crouched beside him, palms up. "Your body is saying no." Her tone went soft and proud. I pointed at the mess and kept my stance. Jenna lifted her chin like I was the messy part. "Cleaning isn't punishment." I tried to sound normal. Jenna tapped her chest and took a long breath, dramatic. "Responsibility without consent is control." She smiled like a teacher. Max's mouth twitched because he knew he just won. I started sweeping anyway because someone had to. Max darted behind me and shoved the dustpan sideways. The pile scattered again like he reset the game. My hands paused midair because I felt myself heating up. "You're doing it for him." Jenna's voice turned sharp for a second. She pointed at my broom like it was a weapon. Stop rescuing him from natural outcomes. Max leaned against the counter and looked bored like a tiny landlord. I stood up and stared at Jenna because I needed reality. Natural outcome is ants, I kept it short. Jenna waved it off and reached for a snack bag. Max took it from her and tossed it onto the floor, smiling wider. I didn't yell, and that was my first mistake. I took the bag and set it on the counter, higher this time. Max climbed onto a stool and reached up anyway. Jenna watched him climb and didn't shift an inch. Feet on the floor, I held the stool steady with one hand. Max jerked his leg like he might jump. Jenna tilted her head and spoke to me, not him. Don't project your fear onto him, and my eye actually twitched. I backed off the stool because I didn't want a scene. Max rocked it harder, testing the balance point. The stool tipped and I caught it before it hit him. He laughed in my face like I was his personal safety net. Jenna snapped her fingers near his shoulder, gentle and loud. Your nervous system is activated, she stared at me again. I swallowed my reply because it would have been ugly. Max copied her tone and whispered, activated, like a joke. I went to my office and shut the door, slow and controlled. Max slid right after me and wedged his foot in the gap. He pushed the door with his whole body and grunted. I felt the hinge strain, and I felt my patience strain too. Not in there, I held the door with my shoulder. Max shoved again and started squealing, high and sudden. Jenna appeared behind him and didn't touch him once. You're denying connection, and it landed like an accusation. I opened the door all the way because fine, come in. Max sprinted to my desk and clawed at my keyboard. I lifted it away and set it on a shelf. He slapped the desk, then looked back at Jenna for approval. Jenna nodded once like she understood his need. Tell Uncle what you're asking for, she pointed at me. Max jabbed a finger at the shelf and screamed, give. I stood there thinking, is this really how we live now? I tried a different tactic because I was running out. You can earn it back with calm hands, I kept it simple. Jenna snorted, then caught herself and made it a sigh. Earning is transactional love, and my stomach dropped. Max lunged for the shelf, missed, and crashed into my chair. The chair rolled and his head nearly clipped the corner. I caught his shirt and steadied him fast, no squeeze. Jenna gasped like I had hurt him, and Max watched her like a hawk. Don't grab, Jenna held up one finger between us. I stared at my hand because it was still hovering. Then move him, my voice cracked on that last word. Jenna's eyes narrowed like I had revealed something terrible. She sat on my office floor and patted her lap. Max jumped onto her and buried his face, instant comfort. Jenna looked up at me with that same calm mask. This home needs to feel safe for him, and I heard the trap click. I walked out before I said something I could not take back. Behind me, Max started humming, loud and pleased. Jenna followed and spoke low, like she was warning a dog. If you can't regulate, you need to step away, and I wanted to scream. Max slammed the back door so hard my dog flinched. He laughed and ran barefoot and fast. My dog followed with his tail low, unsure and quiet. Max spun and shoved him with his foot like it was nothing. I snapped no, the word came out rough. Max froze, then looked past me to find his referee. My sister stepped in slow, lips pressed tight. Her eyes went to Max's face, not the dog's body. She lifted her phone before she touched anyone. The camera lens pointed at me, steady and cold. Say it again, her voice stayed mild but her hand did not. My throat went dry because I knew what that meant. I crouched by my dog and checked his ribs. He leaned into my hand and trembled, which hit me hard. Max hovered close, curious, not sorry. My sister angled the phone to catch my face, hunting for a reaction. You can't talk to him like that, she kept filming. I stared at the phone and felt my cheeks burn. Then stop him from kicking animals, my voice shook on animals. Max's eyebrows lifted, like I just gave him a new button. My sister tilted the phone and switched to Max. Are you okay? Her voice turned syrupy on purpose. Max touched his own chest and made a sad face. He whispered, I got scared, and watched her nod. I stepped between Max and my dog, careful and stiff. Hands to yourself, I pointed at the ground by my feet. Max raised his palms and wiggled them, mocking me. My sister's mouth twitched like she enjoyed the show. Let him express, she held the phone higher. Expression is not hurting, I kept my feet planted. Max lunged like he might kick again just to test me. I shifted my leg in front of my dog and Max noticed. My sister's voice dropped into a calm lecture tone. "You're escalating," she said it like a diagnosis. I could hear my own breathing, loud and ugly. Max copied my inhale, then giggled right in my face. I tried to walk away because I felt myself slipping. Max chased and grabbed my shirt hem from behind. The fabric stretched and I stopped because I did not want to rip. My sister's camera followed like she had practiced this. "Don't touch me," I kept it low, almost a whisper. Max tightened his grip and pulled harder, testing my limit. I peeled his fingers off one by one, slow and careful. My sister sucked in air like I had done something violent. She knelt beside Max and started coaching with soft prompts. "Tell him what you need." Her eyes stayed on the screen. Max looked up at her and asked, "What do I say?" That question landed in my gut like a brick. My sister smiled at him, then glanced at me. "Tell him you don't feel safe," she spoke like it was normal. Max repeated it with perfect timing, eyes wide and fake. I stood there thinking, did she just hand him a weapon? I backed up to the kitchen counter and put my hands flat. The phone stayed trained on my face, waiting for a slip. "Stop recording." My voice came out steadier than I felt. My sister shook her head like I was being unreasonable. "Accountability," she lifted her eyebrows, daring me to argue. Max crept behind her and peeked at the screen. He smiled when he saw himself, proud and bright. Then he reached for my dog again, like the story was not over. I stepped in and blocked with my leg, no contact on him. Max stumbled on purpose and dropped to the floor. He started wailing, loud and sudden like an alarm. My sister swung the phone down to catch the tears. "Look what you did," her voice sharpened for 1 second. I stared at Max's dry cheeks because I saw the act. My dog hid behind my calf, shaking harder now. Max opened one eye and checked if I was watching. I won't pretend I handled it perfectly in that moment. I muttered, "This is insane," and I hated how small it sounded. My sister's phone stayed up, calm as a threat. Max's wail turned into a grin the instant she looked away. Max bolted to the mailbox and yanked out a thick envelope. He tore at the flap with his teeth like a raccoon. I grabbed it mid-rip because my address was on it. Jenna's footsteps hit the porch behind me fast. Her hand shot out for the envelope, nails first. "Give it." Her voice went flat, not gentle at all. I turned it so she could see the name on the front. It was hers, mailed to my house. She snatched it and held it to her chest. Max bounced on his toes and watched her face. I tried to keep my tone normal because my throat was tight. "Why is your mail coming here?" The air went sharp. Jenna flashed a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Because you're helping me." She tapped Max's head like a cue. Max instantly leaned into her leg and went limp. Jenna stared at me over his hair, waiting for my response. I stepped closer and caught one line through the torn edge. Big letters: "Court a date." My brain did that thing where it jumps ahead too far. I felt my hands go cold because I knew the word. Jenna shifted her body to block the torn corner. "Don't be weird." Her tone went sugary again. Max peeked at me and grinned like he smelled blood. I backed up because pushing would make it worse, right? That afternoon she took Max to the backyard and shut the door. I heard her voice through the glass, low and coached. Max repeated phrases like he was rehearsing a song. One word kept popping up: "unsafe." I opened the door and stepped outside, quiet and careful. Max stopped mid-sentence and stared at me like I interrupted. Jenna's phone was in her hand again, screen already awake. She slipped it into her pocket, too smooth. "You're spying." Jenna's eyes narrowed, sharp and quick. I spread my hands and tried to stay calm. I heard my name, my mouth felt dry saying it. Max smiled bigger like he wanted to fight. Jenna crouched and pulled Max close, cheek to cheek. "Tell Uncle what we practice." She nodded once. Max turned toward me and spoke clearly, too clearly. "I don't consent to your rules," and my brain stalled. I blinked hard because I honestly did not know what to say. Jenna stood up and brushed his shirt like he was fragile. "You see," she nodded like she proved a point. Max watched my face, waiting for a crack. I walked back inside and set my keys on the counter. My hands shook, and that annoyed me more than anything. I told myself to let it go, just for today. Then my doorbell rang hard like a fist. A man stood there with a folder and a neutral stare. He asked for Jenna by full name, crisp and practiced. Jenna appeared behind me, then stopped like she hit a wall. Max darted between our legs and looked up, curious. Jenna tried to close the door with her hip. The man angled the folder forward and held his ground. "I'm here to serve documents," his voice stayed calm. Jenna's face went pale, then hot. She snatched the papers and shoved them under her arm. "Thanks," she forced the word out like it hurt. The man turned and walked away without another look. Jenna SLA. Med the door and the house went silent. Max started hopping around because he loves chaos. Jenna pointed at him with a tight smile. "Big feelings time," her voice shook anyway. Max copied her shake and giggled, loud and bright. I reached for the papers, slow like a peace offering. Jenna jerked them away and hugged them to her side. "You don't get to read my private stuff." Her voice held that same warning edge again. "Then don't have it delivered here," my words came out blunt. Jenna's jaw tightened and she pointed at the living room. "Go sit," she said it like I was the kid. Max watched her take control of me and loved it. I did sit because I wanted to see what she'd do. Jenna paced and skimmed the pages, eyes moving fast. Her breathing sped up, then she forced it slow. Max kept staring at the papers, hungry for drama. A page slipped out and landed near my shoe. I saw a line before she stomped it back. "Failure to supervise," black ink, cold words. My stomach turned because that was not about taxes. I looked up and found her eyes on me. She saw that I saw and her face changed. Not anger, not fear, something like calculation. She lowered her voice like she was flipping a switch. "He's trying to paint me as negligent." She tapped the papers hard. Her finger trembled, then she shoved it into her pocket. Max started whining on purpose, like he felt the tension. Jenna scooped him up and stared me down, daring me to judge. I tried to keep my voice steady, and I mostly failed. "Is this about custody?" The word tasted bitter. Jenna's smile snapped on like a mask. "It's about control," and her eyes stayed locked on mine. My phone buzzed on the table, and Jenna glanced at it. "Don't call anyone," she said it fast. That alone told me everything I needed. Max leaned against her and watched my hand hover near the phone. I stood and walked to the kitchen because I needed space. Jenna followed right behind me, too close. "Listen," her voice softened but it felt rehearsed. "If you help me, I'll remember it," and I hated that line. Max slid off her hip and ran for the front door. His fingers grabbed the handle like he owned it. I moved fast, but Jenna stepped into my path. Let him choose, and I almost laughed from disbelief. Max yanked the door open and sprinted down the walkway. I pushed past Jenna because I was not doing this again. Jenna called after me, calm and loud. "Don't chase him," like it was some parenting trick. He hit the sidewalk and ran straight toward the street. A car rolled up the block, not fast, still dangerous. I shouted his name and my voice cracked hard. Max did not slow down, not even a little. I sprinted and grabbed his hoodie from behind, just fabric. His feet slid and he dropped to the ground, screaming. The car's horn blasted, sharp and endless. For 1 second I saw the whole headline in my mind. Jenna finally arrived, walking, not running. She raised her phone again, already filming. "Do not touch him," her words came out cold. Max twisted on the ground and aimed his crying at the camera. A neighbor across the street opened their door and stared. I heard a voice call, "Is everything okay?" Jenna turned her body so the camera caught my face. "Tell them you're scared," she whispered to Max, and he did. Max pointed at me with a shaking finger, dramatic and loud. He grabbed me, his voice bounced off the houses. The neighbor stepped forward, eyes wide. Jenna nodded like a witness, just appeared on cue. I crouched and kept my hands visible, palms open. "I stopped him from running into traffic," my voice came out tight. The neighbor looked at the street, then at Max. Jenna cut in fast, voice sweet as syrup. "He has trauma around force." Jenna touched Max's shoulder light. Max sniffed and leaned into her touch, fake, fragile. I stared at them because the story was being written in real time. The neighbor's gaze flicked to my hands and stayed there. Jenna guided Max back toward the house, slow and theatrical. She kept filming as she walked, like she wanted the whole path. I followed a few steps behind because I didn't trust her now. Max looked back at me and smirked mid-sob. Inside, Jenna shut the door and turned the lock. Not for safety, for control. She held the phone up and pointed it at me again. Apologize like it was a command, the irony was brutal. I took a breath and tasted metal in my mouth. I'm sorry you fell, I hated every word. Jenna's eyes narrowed because it was not the apology she wanted. Max watched her face to see if he should keep crying. Say you were wrong, Jenna moved closer, phone still up. My hands curled into fists, then I forced them open. I shook my head once slow. That moment felt like stepping onto thin ice and hearing it crack. Jenna stared at me, then lowered the phone for the first time. Her voice dropped to a whisper, sharp and real. If you don't support me, you'll make th. Is worse. Max stopped crying instantly, like someone turned off a faucet. I stared at Max because that switch was not normal. He wiped his face with his sleeve, calm and clean. Then he smiled at me, small and satisfied. Jenna saw me notice and her eyes flashed. She walked to the couch and pulled the papers back out. Her hands moved fast, folding, hiding, tucking. She kept glancing at the door like she expected another knock. I stood there realizing she was not hiding from me, she was hiding from someone else. I pointed at the papers, careful, controlled. Who's coming? My voice sounded che-uje, but I kept it firm. Jenna's head snapped up, furious at the question. Max leaned against her knee and whispered, don't tell him, like a partner. Jenna swallowed and forced a calm smile again. No one is coming, she said it too quickly. Then her phone buzzed and her face flickered. She looked at the screen and went still, frozen in place. I watched her thumb hover, then hit decline. She put the phone face down like it was radioactive. Max stared at the phone, then at me, tracking my reaction. Jenna's eyes lifted and landed on mine, hard as a dare. That was the first time I understood the stakes. This was not about parenting styles or feelings. This was about a record being built, piece by piece. And somehow my house was the stage, whether I wanted it or not. Max grabbed my dog's leash and bolted for the front door. I lunged and caught the leash mid-swing, inches from his neck. Jenna stepped in front of Max like I was the danger. Let him explore, her voice stayed smooth and my patience snapped. I pointed at the leash in my fist and held it up. This is not a toy, my words came out clipped and tired. Max stared at my hand, then flicked his eyes to Jenna. Jenna's phone appeared again, ready like a reflex. Turn that off, I kept my voice low and flat. Jenna tilted the screen toward me, smug and steady. This is for safety, her smile looked practiced, not kind. Max rocked on his heels, waiting for the next push. I pulled my own phone out and started recording too. Jenna blinked fast, then laughed like I was being dramatic. Now you're threatening me, she said it soft like bait. My thumb hovered over the screen and I didn't stop. I'm recording my home, I held the camera at chest height. Max stepped closer to my legs and tried to bump me. I shifted sideways and kept my feet planted. Jenna's eyes narrowed and I felt the room tight. She took a step forward and pointed at my phone. Stop filming my child, her tone sharpened for once. I angled the camera down, showing my hands in space. Then stop filming me, and her face twitched. Max lunged for my phone, quick and greedy. I raised it up and he jumped, missing by inches. He landed hard and started screaming, instant and loud. Jenna scooped him up and turned him toward my camera. Tell the truth, Jenna squeezed his shoulders, gentle and firm. Max sobbed and stared straight at my lens. He scared me, his words came out clean like a line. I felt something in my chest go cold because it was rehearsed. I crouched a little, keeping distance, keeping my hands visible. You fell because you jumped at my phone, I spoke slow. Jenna shook her head, lips tight, eyes bright. You're blaming him, and she said it like a crime. I stood up and swallowed hard because I was shaking again. Pack your things, the word surprised even me. Jenna froze, then laughed like I told a joke. Max stopped crying mid-breath and listened, suddenly focused. You can't kick us out, Jenna's voice rose sharp and fast. I nodded at the door and kept the camera steady. I can and I am, my throat burned saying it. Jenna stared at me like she was recalculating. She shifted Max onto her hip and started pacing, quick steps. Do you hear this? She aimed her voice at Max, not me. Max wrapped his arms around her neck and peeked at my phone. His face held that tiny grin again, like he loved courtrooms. I pointed at the clock without walking closer. 1 hour, my voice wobbled, but I did not change it. Jenna raised her phone higher, framing my face. Repeat that, and her tone turned syrupy again. No, I shook my head once, slow and final. I moved to the hallway and stood near the guest room door. Max tried to slip past me, but I blocked with my body. Jenna watched that block like she was saving the clip. Do not use your body on him, Jenna's eyes flashed hot. I held my arms out, showing space between us. I'm standing in my own hallway, my words came out flat. Max tried to dart around me and clipped my leg on purpose. He dropped to the floor and started shrieking, louder than before. Jenna swung her phone down like it was a siren. Look at the bruise, she pointed at nothing, voice shaking. I stared at Max's clean knee and felt my stomach turn. I walked into the kitchen and set my phone on the counter. Still recording, Sty. LL steady. Pack, I said it again and my voice sounded older. Jenna followed close behind, eyes locked on my screen. You're unstable, Jenna tossed the word like a grenade. Max wiped his eyes and watched her mouth, learning. I nodded once because arguing would feed it. Call someone, I said, and I meant it. Jenna's shoulders lifted, then she forced them down. You're trying to isolate me, her voice turned theatrical. I tapped the papers she had shoved under a cushion earlier. No, I'm trying to stop being a character in your file. She grabbed the papers and hugged them to her chest again. Max reached for the top page, curious and nosy. Jenna smacked his hand away, quick and quiet. That tiny smack hit me harder than any speech. Max stared at her like he didn't expect rules for him. Jenna caught herself and pulled her face back into softness. Oops, she chirped, then glanced at my phone like it never happened. I felt my brain click into place, finally. I picked up the envelope and slid a finger under the flap. Not to read everything, just enough to find a number. Jenna's eyes widened and she moved fast toward me. Don't, she hissed, and the hiss told the truth. I held the envelope up, out of her reach. I'm not your enemy, my voice cracked on enemy. Jenna stopped short and smiled again, quick and fake. You're making choices for me, and her tone went accusing. I found the contact line and read it once, then twice. My thumb hit call before I could talk myself out of it. Jenna lunged and slapped at my hand, missing by inches. Max gasped like a spectator, thrilled by the swing. The phone rang and every ring stretched the room. Jenna froze with her hands half raised, caught on camera. Max stopped moving and stared at her face. The mask on Jenna's face started to slip, just a little. A calm voice answered, professional and bored. I put it on speaker because I wanted zero mystery. This is the address on the documents, my voice came steady now. Jenna shook her head hard, eyes burning holes into me. The voice asked my relationship to Jenna, short and sharp. I answered and kept my words clean, no rant. I need advice on her staying here, my mouth felt dry. Jenna mouthed something at me, silent and furious. The voice asked if there was an emergency right now. I looked at Max, then at Jenna's phone still pointed at me. I'm asking her to leave tonight, I said it plain. Jenna's breathing hitched and her phone dipped for once. The voice told Jenna to stop recording and focus on her kid. That line cut through the room like a slap. Jenna's eyes went wide then thin. Max stared at the speaker like it betrayed him. Jenna snatched her phone down and shoved it into her pocket. She hissed my name under her breath, pure venom. Max leaned into her hip and whispered, "What now?" Jenna's hand tightened on his shoulder hard. I ended the call and kept my own camera rolling. My hands were shaking but my spine felt solid. Pack, one word, no debate. Jenna glared at me like she wanted to burn the walls. She stomped into the guest room and started yanking bags open. Clothes flew fast and messy. Max grabbed a toy and whipped it across the bed. Jenna snapped at him sharp, then forced her voice sweet again. Buddy, we're leaving, Jenna smiled like it was his idea. Max shoved the toy into a bag, then kicked the bag over. I stood in the doorway and watched because I did not trust them. Jenna shot me a look that promised consequences. You're enjoying this, Jenna tossed the accusation like a hook. I shook my head because honestly I felt sick. I'm scared of what you're doing here, the truth came out raw. Jenna laughed loud and bright, and it sounded wrong. Max ran past me toward the living room with something in his hand. I stepped after him and saw my spare keys on his palm. He dangled them, grinning, eyes shiny with power. Jenna didn't chase him, she watched me instead. Give those back, I held out my hand, palm up. Max swung the keys toward my face, teasing. I kept my hand out steady and open. He dropped them down my shirt collar and I flinched hard. Jenna gasped like I proved her story for her. Max laughed and tried to run, but I blocked the haul again. Jenna lifted her phone halfway, then stopped herself. Her hands hovered, useless without the recording. "Do you see what he's doing?" I asked, voice strained. Jenna crossed her arms and shrugged like it was weather. "He's expressing," she said it with a lazy smile. I stared at her and felt something break clean inside me. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. Cold air hit my face and helped me breathe. Out, my voice was quiet now, almost calm. Jenna carried the bags out in angry jerks, jaw clenched tight. Max lingered at the threshold and stared up at me. He looked for fear on my face and didn't find it. He kicked my doorframe just to leave a mark. I watched him do it because reacting was what he wanted. Jenna turned back and pointed one finger at me. "You'll regret this," her voice dropped sharp and certain. I nodded once because maybe she was right. Then I pointed at my phone, still recording, still steady. "I regret letting you turn my house into evidence." Jenna's eyes flared and she stepped closer like she might swing. Max grabbed her wrist like he was stopping her. That touch made her pause, and the pause made me uneasy. A car slowed on the street, then kept going. Jenna glanced at it like she expected someone else. Max stood behind her leg, peeking out like a spy. I held my ground because backing up would start it again. Jenna dragged the last bag down the steps and turned once more. Her voice softened, almost normal, almost human. "You're choosing him over us." Her eyes looked wet for real. That almost got me, almost. I swallowed and kept my words short. "I'm choosing safety over whatever this is." Max stared at me and blinked slow, like he was memorizing. Jenna grabbed his hand and pulled him away, fast and tight. I shut the door and locked it, then locked it again. My dog pressed against my leg, shaking but alive. I slid down the wall and let my breath come out in chunks. Outside, a small fist hit the door once, then stopped.